I've never heard of that term before. Is that something your other friends say?
Have Gun Will Travel. It's a Western from in 1957, and it's 6 seasons.
It's
Follows
6 seasons. They had seasons of it. Oh, you mean a TV show, not
a,
a
a
not a.
TV show starring Richard Boone,
Oh, I remember him. Is it
Tony.
on Netflix
I
originally?
well, probably not originally. I'm not sure. Did they have Netflix back in 1957?
Of course.
Streaming
Maybe no, it
services
was
were all
Amazon
the
Prime.
rage.
It was Amazon Prime.
More than
It
Netflix.
wasn't
Oh,
on.
right. That makes more sense, I think. Do you know? Do you know what the funniest thing that I have not been able to get past today has been? I still have these additional cans of lager sitting here, and I keep thinking to
Well, of
myself,
course you have. You didn't drink any of them because we both figured out that you were far too sober by the end of the podcast. So even though you showed one Jake's at the beginning of it, we both surmised that you were drinking Corona Zero all the way through. So you should have 12 left.
I have 4 left, so I drank my 8 cans. But I felt rather scared. But no, I cannot get past the fact that I feel like our Century Club night was at least 2 weeks ago. It cannot have just been 7 days ago, unless storm-wise and school cancellation and work cancellation and everything.
Yeah.
It's just been the longest 7 damn days.
Yeah, it's been shovel, get blown away most of the time and freeze to death.
Yep.
It's been quite a week weather-wise. My son sent me you've met Tristan.
Yes,
he sent me a video of him, because of course he lives in Saguenay, 2 hours north of Ottawa. And by Jove, they've got some snow. He sent me a video, and he was walking out to his car. He opened his front door after the latest... you don't have a deluge of snow, do you? A deluge of water. After the latest sort of...
You're going to have a deluge of snow. Why not?
Yeah, and then he pointed his phone at the car, and he just laughed. I was like, oh, that's going to take a while. He said he just goes out there for a few hours and shovels and then comes back in and then goes out there for another few hours. Yeah, they've been walloped. We haven't really been walloped with snow. It's just been so bloody icy and crappy and freezing rain.
Ice, freezing rain, wind. Every time, and I was saying this because I've given up. When I was talking to other people today, I said I have given up, and I live on top of the ice now. You just come into my driveway, you come directly up, and then we park our cars up here, and we're all just on top of the ice currently.
I think most people are like that. Where the steps you can't even chisel your steps off anymore. You just have to accept that they are now ice steps.
Yeah.
It's like a winter palace.
I've tried a little bit. The worst thing was usually I've had a bag of salt that I've used over the last 5 years or so, and it finally ran out 3 weeks ago.
Just when you need it.
Just when you need it, and just when nowhere in the province apparently has any stupid salt to sell. So you're just SOL there. Yeah. Regardless, might as well get going because we have some bières to drink. Just kind of the interesting thing is how excited we are by tonight's fare.
Isn't it weird? Yeah, I know. I was thinking the same thing. I was been sat here with a smile on my face most of the day, thinking, "Oh, goody, we're having IPAs tonight," and this is so weird. It's just what we've gone a full 180 with this. You know the amount of people that say, "Oh, they went a full 360," and about to, but so many people use that term and then and get corrected. That, no, you'd still be going in the same direction. Yeah, we've done a full 180 with more or less with our IPAs. There are still some that hurt us, but I'm really looking forward to this. They're strong.
Strongish, 6% is. They do say strong on there. But to get absolutely started, I am Ross. Joining me, of course, is my co-host Ian, and together, under several layers of ice that we cannot shovel our way out of, we are attempting to drink Nova Scotia dry. And in a very uncharacteristic episode, we are not just trying to quickly get through the IPAs. we might enjoy them. There's a little bit of a, I don't know.
I don't know what to say.
Yeah, we're gonna
I'm really rather excited.
sip, sample, and take our time. Well, not that much of a time, but and then the most complicated thing is usually we drink from the lowest alcohol percentage up to the highest alcohol percentage, and all of these we've picked out several from our collection of IPAs that we've got recently, and they're all 6%. So we're going in order of alphabetical brewery. So up, the first one in the order alphabetically in the P is Propeller. Propeller Brewing Company with a Slabtown IPA. I don't know what the Slabtown means.
Is the can?
I mean, the can is purple. It's got just some, it's hoppy around the top, the top half. A Propeller can usually isn't all that descriptive. And then on the side, near the 6.0% ABV, it does say, "Welcome to Slabtown, celebrating our annual journey through the Pacific Northwest, where we hand select the finest hops to elevate our craft. This West Coast IPA brims with flavors of zesty citrus, pine, and a touch of tropical fruit." I'm kind of glad this one's going first.
Is Slabtown in the Pacific Northwest?
What a good question. Maybe that has something to do with Slabtown. Could be another word for a nickname of a city out in BC somewhere.
See? Euphemism. Another word.
Slabtown cider is in Ontario. Slabtown is in California. There's one in Georgia, Oregon, Indiana, Ohio. There's one in every U.S. state, because per U.S. state, not to pile on with the Americans, because they're having a bit of a tough go at the moment, but they do seem to have a very repetitive and uncreative naming convention, where if you find cities and towns in each state, we started noticing this. I've driven through just the New England states, once or twice, Massachusetts, Maine, but you notice that as you go through, there's a repeating nature.
I think the same could be said of Eastern Canada, myself.
Oh, you're just saying that because there's 2 Lawrence towns in Nova Scotia.
There are
plentiful Sackvilles.
Sackvilles. There's a Sackville very close on the other side in New Brunswick.
Oh.
Look, this is probably typical of everywhere you go. I can't imagine in, let's say, India, for instance, there is only one town with the name. I mean, in England, there are a bunch of towns with the same name.
No.
Why shouldn't it be the same everywhere you? Oh yes, absolutely. There is. There's a York.
There's more than one Shrewsbury.
I don't think so. Actually, I don't think Shrewsbury. But there are definitely. I've come across towns. I'm like, oh, we've got one of them. Like up the road a little bit more. Yeah, maybe they're not quite as close as they are here, but definitely the names are duplicated. Slabtown, I gotta admit, I don't recognise the name of it. I was thinking maybe, if you were going into the liquor store to get a slab of beer, you might say, "I'm going to Slabtown," pick up my 2-4. But maybe that's not where they're getting at. But that's what I might call it from now on. If I'm going into a liquor store to go and get a 2-4, I might say I'm going to Slabtown. I'm just
Residents and missionaries quickly built homes, schools, businesses, shops, a post office, and a church laid out in an intricate network of streets. The slabs of wood used to build some of the cabins supposedly inspired the name Slabtown from the United States Civil War. Uniontown / Slabtown in where the heck is this? Somewhere in Virginia, I guess. Maybe today visitors to Yorktown Battlefield, a new community known as Slabtown. I don't think this is it, because if we're talking about making a West Coast IPA, which by the way is the main reason I am the most worried about this one,
because it's not an East Coast IPA
no.
or a North IPA. We haven't had the best of luck with West Coast IPAs, have we?
No, because it's that they have the piney super hop. There's less of a balance. It is all about just that nasty. I mean, having said that, There is a delightful citrus coming off of the nose of this one. Oh, we're it isn't hazy. It's rather clear. Look at that. And I have found my favorites of the IPAs have been if it's hazy and it's juicy and it doesn't have that really, that piney thing. And did you just say the magic word that it is my least favorite?
Yeah.
The dank.
I know. I don't think this is dank enough for us. We like the dankest variety.
Oh, I thought we didn't like the dank. No, which one's?
I thought we did like the dank. I thought dank was the juicy, hazy, thick, rich, fruity stuff. Well, that is dank. But refresh me, just like this beer is going to do.
The dankest IPAs conjure the aroma of cannabis, but also find a secondary connection to weed in their lingering bitterness, a jolt to the system. So, yeah, that sour, gross. If it's dank, then it sort of smells like it's gone off a bit. It's so sour. It's kind of something. Your hops have turned to marijuana plants.
Well, I've been using that word completely wrong then, but I'm going to continue using it like Slabtown. I'm just making this shit up as I go along.
Okay. Yeah.
It smells like an IPA, Ross.
It do.
Which is what it is.
But it might be smooth. I've started appreciating the flavor of an IPA.
Citrusy, of course it is. Smell. Yeah, it's going to be bitter.
Smells rather nice. Cheers.
Mm-hmm.
A little bitter.
But not the face tear apart that we used to struggle with. This is smoother than that. It's creamier than that to me. It's medium, quite medium body. It's not. You say bitter. I'm not left with any bitterness. It's up front, but I'm not left with afterwards. It's quite smooth.
I have just a little bit of a bitter aftertaste, but I think the problem now is I've got a little bit of the hoppy through the middle. I would say medium body, bordering on light body. This is it's an easygoing IPA. This is sort of what some of the session IPAs taste like to me, where you sort of, we have to ease off and back off. So how have you made a 6.0 but left quite a bit of the flavor out?
When one of the earliest IPA nights we had, we did sort of 5 or 6 of them in one night, and I was left feeling that one of them was outstanding. And that was the IPA by 9 Locks, I think, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And because I found that at the time, the smoothest, the creamiest, the easiest to drink for me, this brings to mind that brew. This is not offensive in the slightest, actually. This is quite easy, and it's 6%, Ross, so be careful. I mean, I know they all are.
Well, it is, yes.
And it's got an oranginess actually to it. I'm trying to pick up the fruit. It's got a tangerine, not lemony or pineapple or grapefruit to me. Not tropical fruit. Oh no, I suppose a pineapple. An orange. I suppose is tropical really, but this has got a tangerine citrus to me rather than a strong one.
I'm having a hard time narrowing down a flavor specifically for the citrus. In fact, I'm not entirely sure I'm getting a lot of citrus at all. What was the one was subtle. Something was subtle. Touch of tropical fruit. Yay! It definitely has a touch of tropical fruit. Oh, flavors of zesty citrus. Oh, I'm not getting that either. I'm also not getting the pine.
No, I'm not getting pine. Did it call the pine? Did it really?
Brims with pine and zesty citrus.
I
don't think it brims with anything.
Smell the pine? Not really. I'm getting hints of orange, and it's really rather nice. without knocking my socks off. I'll say that. Perfectly decent for an IPA, this, and it's a bit strong as well.
To be honest,
So gets a mark for that.
Several of the local pubs in my stratosphere, they have the IPAs right now, and they are as inoffensive as this one. And so I like to go in, and they don't have any wackadoodle, zebra, flying monkey, pterodactyl stout, or something like that. I don't know why I just named a bunch of animals, but oftentimes there's just kind of, just give me the IPA. It's nice and strong. It says, it says 6.5% up there. Just give me the whatever that is, and you drink it, and you think, I can drink this without it feel like it's burning my esophagus on the way down. And that's what this is. This is a non-burning. It's fine.
We're having less and less of those. They're now becoming a rare commodity, I think. I don't know. I don't think it's necessarily all to do with our palates changing or becoming more refined. And it's a possibility that it's a bit of both. But I think the brewers are getting better at IPAs. I like to think that's the case, because if they're being given feedback from their punters and saying, what about this, what about that, and they are also we're led to believe they do like to do a little bit of collaborating. One brewer might say to the other, oh, try this or try that. I think they're refining the whole IPA thing, because it's not just a case of me slowly, and you and Rebecca coming around and saying, actually, these are quite good now. I think they're getting better. They're not just smacking hops in your face and saying, have it. It's just so bitter and sour and acidic. They're better now.
It may also be a change in taste profiles, where sort of, no, people are liking them to be maybe a little backed off of the acidic burn so much. Or, I mean, yes, I'd like to think that everyone's getting better as well. But and I still did have one that burned my esophagus. And I think the most recent one, what week was that? I think we had, it was one of the weeks that you were away. You might have been rehearsing that week. And I think I had Keir, and David was my first guest. He had been on. And I think we had the Route 19. If I remember, the Route 19 IPA. Or was it? No, wait. It was New Scotland Kilted IPA, I think. Was
I did
that
episode.
one. That one burned. It burned going down. So they do still exist. It's not just us training our systems to have whatever.
Less of them. There's less of them. And I find myself using the word creamy with some of these IPAs now. Yeah. Even I'm not talking the double IPAs, and that's certainly not something I would have said at the outset when we started sort of dipping our toe into all of these. Creamy was not a word I'd have said that these regular IPAs were. They were just sharp and on my teeth. Now I'm getting a lot of creamy IPAs, and they're really rather good.
Ooh, I'm getting some very dangerous words on this next one. Are you leaving a small amount for comparison later? Right.
You bet your bottom dollar. I'm going to do exactly that.
I definitely say that's kind of a middling, okay, drinkable. I'd say I would have another. Sit in the pub, and they came by, and if I'd found this, I would say, you know what? Yes, give me another one of those. It's drinkable. It's a 6%. A drinkable 6.0 IPA is definitely perfectly acceptable.
Yep. I'm now ready to accept that there is a touch of pininess to it.
Okay.
Yep.
I still don't feel like I'm finding it.
Okay. The smell, I don't get it, but there is maybe it's because it's suggested it to me, but I'm open to the suggestion now that there is a bit of pine in there, a slight bit of orange, and it's really rather good. I like it. I'm going to reserve my useless marking system. It's only for me to the end, because I've got a feeling coming back to that, I might say, "Oh, that's even better than I remember it as."
I'm sort of tentatively thinking in my mind that I'm holding that at a 7.5 right now, but everything may adjust over these next two. Usually you give higher than me. I would be tempted to go higher with that already, but there we go. So yes, I'm
wait.
I'm
Forever.
I'm a little worried because it's an IPA. But anyway, next up, out of the from Rare Bird craft beer made by the authentic. Oh wait, had it right. It was the Authentic Sea Coast Brewing Company, I think. Yes. So the Authentic Sea Coast Brewing Company. Also, I think they have a distillery as well. This is out in Guysborough on the east coast there, but they also do the Rare Bird series where each one is a bird. And this one is the Surfer Scooter India Pale Ale. And apologies to me advertising everything earlier because I'm pretty sure I spelled that as the Surfer Scooter about 9 times. So my interpretations are wrong on everything for tonight.
Well, you said that, and immediately I read it as that as well. Without, I don't know why. So, what's a scoter? What's a scoter?
Well, a scoter, I'm gonna have to assume, is this bird, because it's usually it's in the name, and it's a surfer scooter. Well, hang on a second. Let's look up the surfer scooter.
Bird?
A surf scooter is a bird.
Wow.
A medium-sized sea duck with a sturdy neck and a rather large head and a heavy, broad bill. Large sea duck native to North America. Adult males are almost entirely black with characteristic white patches on the forehead and the nape, and adult females are slightly smaller and browner. I have never heard of or seen a bird like this, so it's just a big old black duck.
I'm kind of a little bit doubtful that the bird actually looks like this, Russ. So if you haven't seen one that looks like that, it's probably because they don't look actually like that with the goggles on and surfboards and stuff. I think that's just a representation. That's not goggles, it's his eyes.
Yeah.
I think the
wetsuit is added, that's for sure.
Okie dokie. It's cool though. I'm going to come up from now on. So have we got them in Nova Scotia as well? Do we have them around here?
Very funny, very funny.
Yeah.
The wintering range, yes.
Yeah.
Would you believe they live all the way along? Alaska, Yukon, northwest, or the upper half of Quebec and the Prairie provinces, and then in the winter they go all down the west coast and all down the east coast. They live right on the sea water. So why would a sea bird be landlocked to the Yukon? What a strange animal. That's what I say. It's a strange animal. You got to get away. So it does say on the can, like a tidal wave, our IPA arrives with a big hit of hops. Citra, Nugget, and Cascade deliver delicious citrus and peach notes up front before coming in, the font is all over the place. Before coming into balance with caramel flavors from malted barley and wheat, the ride finishes clean and dry, offering a moment to contemplate the next epic wave. 6.0%. And you didn't notice my 80s Gowan Strange Animal reference.
Well, okay, just before I get to that, my web feet make it easy to hang 10 as I ride the bombs with style. Wow.
Well, that's the bird paragraph. There's on the Rare Bird cans, there's always a paragraph describing the bird, and then the paragraph describing the beer. I skipped the bird one this time because we're not a bird podcast. I mean, just happens to be on the can. You're not stealing my show.
Gowan, mate, this is something that's come to light really quite recently. Thanks for inviting us to that trivia when you did. However, I'm busy, but I usually do go to a trivia on a Thursday night when I'm not working in Greenwood. And inevitably, well, there's always a music round. And inevitably, there are Canadian acts in the music round. I never know any of them. Because we've had this discussion with my friend Ted and with Rebecca that for some inexplicable reason, Canadian acts never made it into the UK, with the obvious exception of the huge acts, the Bryan Adams, the Neil Youngs, the Joni Mitchells.
Rush?
No, weirdly,
no.
Rush. Oh, hang on. Well, no, Rush do have a prog following, a rock following in the UK, but they had one single in the charts, and that was Radio, whatever it's called.
Oh wow, okay.
Something Thinking Radio in 1980. but Canadian acts. Yes, Alanis Morissette, bloody
Celine
what's it-
Dion, maybe.
Celine Dion,
Okay.
right? But the what I would call the there were no 80s acts made it in Canada in the UK at
Wow.
all. So therefore, whenever he plays, apart from Brian Adams, whenever he plays a snippet of a song that we're supposed to recognise, and they're like, "How could you not know that?" I have no idea about any of them. And then, and this actually ramps it up by saying this: Gowan I'd never heard of ever
Wow.
until very recently when Rebecca started talking about him, and then he comes up on what's it called on the radio there, not Magic, the other one, 89.3. What's that one?
Rewind, yeah. Because there's a good amount of Canadian nostalgia. Because in the 80s they invented the CRTC, so there was you have to put Canadians on the radio. So we were forced to listen to, and I don't want to downplay it, but we were forced to listen to mediocre music because it was Canadian produced, and I accept that it wasn't fantastic. It was pretty good. Some of it was pretty good. But no, I will never say to you, "What, sir? How dare you not know of the Canadian band Haywire? How have you never heard of Frozen Ghost? What is... Psh. Good day to you, sir."
Inevitably, when I hear a song, when we're traveling together and 89.3 is on, inevitably, when a really terrible, cheesy 80s rock song comes on, and I've never heard of it, I say to her, "They're Canadian, aren't they? Whoever this is, they're Canadian." She's like, "Yeah, they are." And there's an awful lot of terrible 80s Canadian music out there. It has to be said. There's a lot of terrible music, period, in the 80s. But of course, like you said, they have to have CanCon on Canadian radio stations, which I thoroughly approve of, by the way. They're not asking for my approval, I'm sure, but of course it's a great thing to have your own national music being played on your radio stations. But so much of it is horse shit, I have to say, and I say that with I say that in the kindest possible way.
You are quite right, but the good thing, the bright side is the CRTC, us being forced to listen to Canadian acts, such as example as The Box, in the 1980s, that led to us listening to Our Lady Peace. And the Tragically Hip sort of bridged the gap between all of it. But, my goodness, like bands that came out with much better music. Or, I don't know, maybe there's an argument to be made that it was easier to make music in the 90s because there was only 3 chords. But in the 80s, everyone was trying to do bonkers. Oh, yeah, we're going to have an upside-down xylophone in our band. But I think the being forced to listen to it in the 80s led to all of the good stuff that we got in the 90s from the Canadian bands, and they started doing really well. Your Bare Naked Ladies and whatnot, and the really good stuff.
I Mother Earth, you mentioned. Oh no, you didn't. You mentioned Our Lady Peace, but I Mother Earth, Sloan, of course, right from on our doorstep here. There were some good bands that came out in the 90s, in the early 90s.
Is I Mother Earth Canadian?
Who? What? How? When?
I Mother Earth, really?
Are they not?
They are. You're absolutely right. I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah, and there were some good stuff. Where are Hootie and no Hoobist no whatever. Anyway, there's some terrible bands. They're probably from the States.
One of the Hoot Hoots.
But I lumped them in. Matchbox 20, all that kind of, all that early sort of 90s stuff. It was just there. By the way, you mentioned the Bare Naked Ladies. I knew you would like the Bare Naked Ladies because, well, I just knew you would. You're right in there. You are their audience. But have I ever told you that they the very first CD I ever bought, I finally capitulated and bought myself a CD player in 1993 and I happened to be in Goose Bay living there for a couple of years, and that was the first CD I ever bought in my life. Was Gordon, by the Bare Naked Ladies. Yep, because it was they were huge at the time with I don't know, I forget what the names. Oh yeah, $1 Million thing, and that was all over the radio, and people were really getting into
that. That one, but yeah, that was the seminal one, and we all had that. But so the thing was, my sister was a teenager at the time. I was just a lowly, early teen. I was getting there, so I would listen to my sister's music, and she had several CDs. But of those CDs I listened to, Gordon, Bare Naked Ladies. The other CD I listened to nonstop was U2's Achtung Baby.
Which is which is their best. It was just they broke the mold with that. They went away from the big Americana and said we're gonna reinvent ourselves.
We're gonna
it's
go crazy.
a fantastic album.
So since those ones I already listened to, when I finally bought my first album, you'll never guess what. I'm sure we've had this discussion of what my first music
We may
CD.
have.
Sting.
We may have. What? 10 Summoner's Tales.
10 Summoner's Tales.
You could do worse than 10 Summoner's Tales. It's certainly in his probably top 3 or 4 solo albums.
It was during a time that I bought an album for a song and then learned that everything else was so much better. I mean, Fields of Gold was it was holy cow, this is the best thing ever. And then I listened to the album and I said Fields of Gold is like maybe the 6th best song on this CD. Maybe.
There is that, there's that song on there that really annoys me a little bit. That, when he started talking, he says, "We've got everyone here, doctors." Do you remember that guy talking? He said,
"Yeah,
all right, over, back to work." That annoyed me a little bit. I thought, how indulgent.
Saint Augustine and Hell,
yes,
I believe, is the name of that track. Yep.
He can be pretentious, Sting. That's for sure. He certainly has his pretentious moments, and that was one of them. But it's a good album.
Oh, it's so good. I think Shape of My Heart is one of the greatest poetically well-written songs. Just the chorus, how he talks about it. It's a gambling song, and then the chorus about what each of the suits in the deck of cards mean.
Yeah.
Oh, it is impressive. I mean, he is a very talented man, but when I think, you know what,
But before we do, if you are a little bit what's the word? If you like a little bit of Sting occasionally, I was listening to this album only today at work with my earphones in.
Yes.
If you've never listened to the Soul Cages, his '91 release, it's okay. It is. He wrote it after the death of his dad, and it's all about shipyards closing down in the northeast of England in Newcastle. It's very poignant. It's so beautiful. It's his favorite album he wrote of his own, and it's probably close to being my favorite of his as well.
Soul Cages. Okay, I've got it in there.
Good.
I have poured this out. So we've got Citra, Nugget, Cascade, and do you know what I'm smelling? I am smelling the caramel flavors in the malted at the can, the empty can.
Absolutely.
That's some malt, and look at the color of it. This is still pretty clear, but that's more of an amber. I'm really looking forward to this.
Immediately. Isn't that funny? Immediately get the difference.
Because I have not had the best of luck with Rare Bird.
I wasn't going to mention that when you said earlier on that we got a Rare Bird brew. I wasn't going to bring that up. Yeah, we haven't loved them so far.
And this is the one that I kind of sorted out my idea of whenever I try something, it has that taste of a tomato soup. And then you called me out on it, and then I mentioned it. I sent a message to our friend, the only Prud'homme I know in Nova Scotia, and he mentioned that, if you're getting, here's what a tomato flavor would be the result of if you didn't boil it long enough. And I said, it's been happening a lot with this one thing. And he said, that's kind of interesting, because maybe could be that they're not boiling their beer. And I said, you're an authentic beer company. How are you not doing the rest? I don't understand or know anything what's going on. If we ever talk to Rare Bird, I will apologize profusely. But this smells more promising than I was expecting. This was quite the thing. Look at what the head's done. It's all collected in the middle like an iceberg.
Oh, mine hasn't done that. But of course, craft breweries are allowed to make the odd misstep. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, I know Paddy's been doing it for 30-something years, but occasionally they miss as well. They've been doing it for donkey's years, and they're not always the best brews. And also Wayfarers have been doing this for a long time now, themselves, 12, 15 years, whatever it is, I don't know. And they're not always the greatest either. I know they've gone through quite an array of master brewers there, and there's some really good stuff. But sometimes they miss it as well,
Yeah.
and they're allowed because they're only human.
Can I point out to their credit that it we had this conversation when I was down at their establishment where previous owners, original owners, may have been a little bit elitist and maybe didn't work with other people, just thought they knew everything about beer, released everything, and I didn't like a lot of their original recipes. The next owners came in, they brought in the brewers, they brought in Lisa and Matt from out west, and Lisa changed the recipes, and I loved the changes that she was making. They left it to the next new brewer, who is now current Matt, who really likes sours and wants to do a rotating sour tap. And the current cranberry sour, we tried it. Brittany and I tried it, and it's actually rather good. And I don't like sours, and I thought it was pretty good. They are contemplating removing the stout as a full year round thing and only having it in winter because he's a sour guy. I'm like, however. The biggest and best compliment that I can give them, the cranberry sour has now been placed on tap down at the Tapestry Beer Bar at 1833 Sackville Drive, owned by one Ian Smith.
I think you're being paid by him, aren't you?
It almost feels like it sometimes, but no, I have many ideas in mind that I'm going to drag my friends kicking and screaming, and we're all going to meet up at the Tapestry Beer Bar, 1833 Sackville Drive, and have a brew now and then.
Some sours are better than others, that's for sure. Not many of them pique my interest, and more often than not, most of them, like, I hate it. But some of them, I'm okay with that one.
The IPA thing did the same thing for me, where I said, an IPA, not interested. And then someone said, we've got one that's lime peanut butter flavored. I'm like, okay, I'll try your lime peanut butter IPA. That's fine. And the same thing for sour. Someone says, we've got a pineapple pecan sour. And it's, all right, bring it on. And it allows me to...
milkshake one from Two Crows.
Heck yes. Oh, that one was insane.
Yes.
How are you doing? This smells moldy.
It smells amazing, Ross.
Oh, I can't wait.
I'm really looking forward to this. You could not get... I mean, look at the difference. They're both saying IPA. Saying IPA.
It's a dark IPA. It's definitely
it's golden. It's golden.
It's malt flavored. I love it when they say this one's got malt in it and it looks like it's made of malt.
What's the difference? It's caramel. Wow.
That tomato is still there.
Oh, you really?
Just a bit. Oh,
I'm so sorry. I was looking at the age of it, and it's from last year. It's from May of last year. Really? Look at your hand.
Just a bit. But, still, lovely malt. That is not. If you plonked that in front of me, I would say, oh, yeah, that's an interesting red. I wouldn't call that an IPA if I drank that on its own. Would you?
No. I wouldn't. I'm not. I don't know. The pale ale. I shouldn't say anything about it. I should say nothing about it because.
Biscuits.
Forget I was going to say that. I was going to mention the Wayfarer's pale ale. That to me is just basically an IPA that we had the other day. This to me, if you put that pale ale down in front of me and blindfolded me and had this one alongside it, the pale ale that they've got, I'd say that's an IPA 100%. This one here, I wouldn't be like that's not an IPA. Isn't it funny how these things can just blur the lines completely? If this is officially an IPA, you could have fooled me, is what I'll say.
I have to agree.
It doesn't have the hoppy profile. It's way maltier, far sweeter, caramel. Yes, there does have of course there's hops in it. It's still got some hoppiness, but I'd have said this was a pale ale, not an IPA at all. Whereas the Wayfarer's one, I'd have said, was exactly the opposite. It is classed as a pale ale, but it tastes 100% like an IPA. Right.
This is classed as an IPA though, but it tastes more like that malty side of it. But again, it's not often that we find one that says that it's going to be malted and is Because you get
And
the IPAs, and they say, we're very heavy on the malt side of things, and then it comes through with, it's just way too much hops. I'm sorry. Sadly, the citrus and peach notes up front. All the malt, the middle of the malt is so good.
And you're getting the tomato soup, the gazpacho.
Just a really, really tiny little bit, but I think I might just be subconsciously looking for it. The ride finishes clean and dry. I hate it when something says that something got a dry finish. Dry, to me, is just a euphemism for flavorless. I don't understand people that like things that are dry. Try this liquid, it's dry.
Oh, no, I'm totally on board with that. Give me a dry cider over a... No, that's not right. Give me a medium dry wine over a sweet wine every time. Also, I'm quite partial to the dry ciders too. And I understand... Oh, you don't? I understand that because the sweeter ones tend to be a bit cloying and they make me feel queasier earlier than the dry finishes do. I kind of get that.
That's fair. And I had a discussion with someone about ciders and the sweetness of them, and they say I can't drink too many of a sweet cider because my teeth start to hurt. And I say the same thing. You know, if I'm having, and I think I've had one cider night, and that's because we went to the cider tasting party thing, part of an Apple Blossom Festival, and it was just all of the cideries, and they were all there with free samples. Try this, try this, try this, and honestly, nothing stuck in my mind other than Spur Brothers is awesome for cidery.
Down there in Wilmot.
Yeah. And other than that, just I find that trying lots and lots of ciders was boring. If I had a room full of beer, because the array of beers is all over the place, but the array of ciders is ours is a little drier than the other. Now, some of them were try our dandelion cider, try our blueberry cider. They did have a few, but it's all just the same kind of semi-sweet thing. And
yeah, have you got into not got into? Have you tasted a number of pear ciders? Because I find they tend to be really rather delicious, more than the apple. A couple, and that's why it is cider a fruit thing or is cider an apple thing? Because why don't we have peach cider? Why don't we have plum cider? I've had plum wine from Japan. It's delicious. It's outstanding. Yeah, but it's so grape cider is wine? No. I've had grape cider.
Well, what makes it a cider instead of a wine?
I don't make it, Ross. I've no idea. I may be making that up as well. I may be. But I kind of feel that I think grape cider is a thing. I may be making that up.
Cider is an alcoholic beverage made from the fermented juice of apples. Meanwhile, wine is an alcoholic beverage made from the fermented juice of grapes. So...
That's very... blanket statement they're doing there, because clearly it's they'd probably say a stout is a dark beer, and you go, no, not anymore, it ain't. We've had white stouts, so forget about that. It's a blanket statement, and breweries are doing different things now, so forget about that. I don't know where you read that. That's nonsense.
The correct term...
Is that the internet?
That's the internet. I found it on the internet. The correct term for pear cider is perry.
Can you spell that? P-H-A-T. Can you spell Perry for me?
Z-H.
I knew it would have a
A-P-I T-I apostrophe N-S-T. Perry.
Wow.
Not what you'd expect, is it?
My brain just exploded while trying to put that connection of letters together.
Sorry. I'll have to listen to that one back and try to figure out what I just tried to spell. Zjapst.
This is
good. This is tasty. It has more of a bitter back end. But
it's interesting, isn't it? It's not got the It's not. Would you? It hasn't got the hoppy
No.
profile that we all associate with it. It is nice to have a maltier one, and I'm on board now with some IPAs, as you know. But it is nice also to have a maltier one. This is really nice. It's toffee. It's got I mean, some maltiness to it.
Do
It's
you remember? Is it North Brewing? Who does the Malternate Reality?
Yeah, North Brewing. That's fabulous. Alternate reality.
That's
I
the
see
North.
what
You're
you've
right.
done. Yeah,
The
yeah. I see
favorite
what
one of
you've
the
done.
favorite current beers of one Todd Beale.
I think alternate reality was when we had it. We were like, oh my god, it's got that lovely caramel
It was.
sweetness.
It was
And we were like, is this an IPA?
Yep.
And there was, and the other one they do in a similar can. One's got a sloth on it, and the other one's got. No, I think the alternate reality doesn't have the sloth. I think that's got like a orange and green kind of pattern thing going on. But they were very similar coloured cans. The other one was an IPA, and I didn't go for it much. I found it too sharp.
Yes. And I'm trying to remember what that one was. I think it was the sloth can. We didn't like. Pleasant Disposition.
Disposition, right. I found that very traditional IPA that I wasn't on board with.
Yeah.
Whereas the alternate reality was chewy. It was lovely.
Oh.
And,
What
and
if a beer could be malt forward? So yes, this is interesting, and I do appreciate that it's there, that it does say, and it does have a malt, more of a malt profile to it.
Yeah,
so
I like the way you've actually brought that in, because you could probably compare these two like for like in a big way.
Mm-hmm.
They're both malt forward, caramel, sweeter IPA. The color doesn't look too dissimilar either. That might be worth investigating, because this is worth getting a second one of. I might just do that. Get them alternate reality again that I know I love.
Yep.
And put the two together and say, let's do a little test here.
Can I just say I'm rather proud of us for that? Where, if we're having a couple of IPAs and we have the one in the middle and we say this one tastes completely different from that first one, but you know what it does remind me of? It reminds me of that other malt forward IPA we once had once upon a time, and I would like to compare those two. Huh. Take that, journalistic integrity.
You can say that because you suggested it. You said it reminds me of, and I thought, you know what, you're right. If you hadn't have said it, I probably wouldn't have
you
occurred
would
to me.
have
So
thought of it.
For that,
It's right there. That's fine. I'm leaving a delightful little finger of that one as well to, as they say, enjoy.
Yeah.
And that leaves us with, we have not had one of these in a little while, from Tatamagouche Brewing Company, out of obviously Tatamagouche, Nova Scotia. And this one describes itself as the INtertidal Mosaic IPA. Curious, because the Bay of Fundy, famous for its tides, but Tatamagouche is over on the Northumberland Strait. And, I mean, while they have tides, not exactly the biggest, I'm not saying they're the biggest in the world or anything, but it's acceptable, I suppose.
Acceptable.
Acceptable. A good beer for good people, and we can't wait for you to try it. There is nothing on the can. What I find interesting, normally, all Tatamagouche cans are quite orange. This one is more of a very pale brown, like a pale browny orange.
This one looks like it's been left in the window too long, and it's just sort of got off-coloured. You know when you get your DVDs that go slightly weird colour?
And I didn't want to accuse you of leaving this one in the car or anything, because the black is still very black.
Is it black?
Well, it seems to be. Nothing else seems to be faded. It's just the main color on it seems to be just a little bit gone. And then I looked up, so I couldn't find anything on the can, so I looked that up. And here on the internet is a picture of it, and it's a very faded out. In fact, it calls it the INtertidal White IPA. This one is the INtertidal Mosaic IPA. I'm not sure what the difference might be there. But it does say, this IPA combines juicy hops with the fruit-forward character of Belgian yeast and a real grapefruit peel. The finished beer gives off flavors of pineapple, mango, and mandarin.
Wow, really?
That says
Interesting.
white IPA, though. Hang on. Maybe Tatamagouche
I'm trying,
INtertidal.
as you mentioned the Tatamagouche line again. I'm having a lot of fun with trying to figure out what this color is, because I got accused the other day of a woman in a store that men only know the base colors: blue, red, green, brown. Not brown even. I don't know what they are. What are the base colors? Yellow, green, brown, blue, pink. Oh, yeah,
Yellow, red, green, yellow, blue.
It's only women that say this looks like a coral to me, or a peach, or something. You know, we just go with red or pink. Blue.
All right.
We do. I think this looks like a coral. That's what I'm going with. It's slightly terracotta, but it's erring on the side of blush or peach or coral. Coral. I'm going with coral.
I feel like coral would have more pinky red. This is more towards the orangey brown. So I like your terracotta. That's certainly a bit more where I'd lean. Can I say that was the INtertidal the white IPA. This, the INtertidal Mosaic IPA, it's different. So, yeah, never mind what I just explained. This one, Mosaic IPA. Mosaic packs a punch. Loaded with Mosaic hops, this IPA is saturated with bright flavors of grapefruit, layers of peach, berries, and mango. These flavors are supported by its full body and balanced by soft bitterness.
Okay, interesting. You mentioned peach. What do you think? What color is that? You're a lady. That's not grapefruit color. Is it grapefruit?
She's a lady.
Is that a grapefruit?
Yeah, she's a lady.
Would you call it champagne?
No,
not champagne. Blush. It might be blush or grapefruit color.
Oh,
so I was going with coral. Peachy. What? Ross said it. Also, what? Oh, whatever. So, what would you say if you had to nail it on? Someone had a gun to your head. What color is that? Peach. It's peach, Ross. She's female. She knows these things.
It's too brown. There's too much of a brown muddiness to it. It reminds me of it's a muddy tide. Like it's like the
But salmon's got more pinkiness to it. This is more of a
salmon's got more pink. So many things have more pink to them, but this one is really. Do you know what the only way I can describe this as? Did you ever make the Jello pudding, the caramel pudding from a packet? And did you ever stir it with the full amount of milk, but you hadn't poured in all the powder yet? This is non-fully mixed caramel pudding.
I see where you were going with that.
Like, yeah, diet pudding.
It's diarrhea pudding.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to it.
Actually, I can't wait for the diarrhea pudding. It's gonna be a good night.
It's kind of more brown than your can.
No, we're comparing the two cans we have now. The two cans, that was Guinness. They look very similar. Yours is colder than mine.
It doesn't look brown.
No, it's not brown. It's peachy brown. Anyway, you know what? Never was this less important, the color of the can, than what was contained within it. I just thought I'd get a female's perspective because, like I just said, we are males and we don't know colors very well.
I'll go and ask my wife afterwards, and I'll text you her answer.
Do that. Good.
Smell the can, sir.
All right, I will.
And you'll find that it's
It's grapefruity. Is that
That
is
is,
IPA.
that is a hazy and zesty IPA.
It
That
is.
is.
That is exactly how I expect an IPA. In fact, dare I say it, it's a bit piney.
You got some pine out of that? I think that's the mosaic hops. This is loaded with mosaic hops, and I'm agreeing with everything in this to the smell. Bright flavors of grapefruit, layers of peach, berries, and mango. So this is like a super. This is a fruit salad IPA here.
This is a tropical IPA
Oh, it
for
is.
sure.
It is brimmed. I have brimmed my glass. Are you? How's it going? Should I try to? Mine's in the glass.
The color again looks like a fruity.
It is an apple to an orange to a banana. We are comparing three IPAs that are so dissimilar to each other that this is actually kind of a fascinating journey. I love and appreciate each of these for what they're doing.
Tropical. This looks also significantly more carbonated. It looks like a soft drink I'm pouring here, like a Fanta. It's crazy.
Oh,
Look at this.
you might be one of the few other people on this. Actually, I could talk about these two things with you. I will say Orangina.
Yes.
Oh yes, and I will also say Iron Brew.
Iron Brew. Yeah, not dissimilar. It's a little more yellow.
It's
than
more
Iron Brew,
Orangina.
but
It's definitely Orangina, I think.
yeah,
Oh
interesting.
man, travel Orangina in the bottle. That was our method
Orangina.
through Scotland during several of my trips.
Greatest. I mean, it looks like a tropical fruit juice.
I
When
want
you
umbrellas.
compare it, look at that. It's crazy.
So good.
They're all IPAs, though, mate. That's good. There's,
Again,
That's good.
ciders don't do this. Ciders don't have one. Like this one's super thick.
if a Prodo, what's it called? The beer specialist? A
Prud'homme.
Prud'homme. What's a cider
I'm-
specialist
what-
called? I'm interested. But they would probably argue with you 100% that there are very, very distinct and subtle differences to different ciders as well. I'm not. I'm still, after drinking a million beers my whole life, I'm still getting to grips with how to describe them or how to differentiate between them. I know what I like. That's the thing. And I really like, I really know what I don't like, more importantly.
Huh.
But the things I don't like are slowly coming into my field of play, which is good. And IPAs are a big part of that.
I've got the answer. Are you ready to drink? Shall we have our thing? And I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Very smooth.
Mmm.
Very smooth. Oh yes.
That was the hazy, juicy IPA I was looking forward to tonight. Oh,
It's like juicy double IPA. Very smooth, full of juicy fruitiness. Cloudy. Yep.
lovely and cloudy. Yes. I've got it all right there. It's quite thick. That is wonderful. I'm not so certain that we've got. Oh wait, where's
Trying to pick out individual fruits.
bright flavors? Grapefruit layered with peach, berries, and mango.
Okay, well, give me the grapefruit.
Grapefruit,
It's
yes.
Obviously, grapefruit. Yes.
Peach,
Peach? No. In the color.
maybe.
Can.
Mango. Yeah.
I've eaten an awful lot of mango recently because I'm very cheap and it keeps going on at 50% in the independent stores.
Yeah.
I've eaten an awful lot of mango when they're almost falling off of the stone.
Oh.
And I can kind of get a hint of
Yeah,
mango, but
I'm-
the grapefruit is the big one. It's the
Okay.
delta. There's a bit of mango in there as well. What was the other thing you said? Peach?
Berries. It feels a little bit of a cop out. You're just gonna, I don't know, berries. You say, I don't know, gooseberry, raspberry, blueberry. What are we talking about here? Well, berries.
Yeah. No, grapefruit, mango. For
Yes.
Sure.
Bit of peach,
I'm on
maybe. Supported by
Peach,
its full body.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Balanced
Full
by
bodies and
soft
creamy.
bitterness.
Soft bitterness. Interesting. I like that. That might be the creaminess that they're referring to.
Oh,
Um,
this one's hit the creaminess, but yeah. Balanced by soft. I guess if it balances out by having no bitterness because it's just so smooth, then yeah, I'm there 100%.
yeah, you don't want a fruit juice, so therefore it's giving you a balancing out by a soft bitterness. I get that because it's leveling it. It's easy to drink. It's not like an orange juice is not easy to drink. I find that a fresh orange juice is like, ugh, that's really. Ugh.
Are you
But
mixing water with the concentrated can?
no, I'm drinking full on orange juice,
Okay.
and it's not, it's sharp. You go.
That seems bad. A cider expert. Are you ready for this?
It's called.
Pommelier. It's a sommelier, but with a pom. Because a pom is a
Clever.
freaking apple.
Wow.
Pom.
Yeah, that makes
Pommelier.
sense. Well, then Pommelier
Yes.
makes perfect sense. So how is a sommelier? So the pom makes perfect sense for an apple, but a sommelier. Or did they just have fun with the whole idea of a sommelier, the correct name for it, and then think if we need to have an expert in ciders, it would be fun to call it a pommelier.
I'm hoping that's it, but my initial question was, do you really want me to look up the etymology of words on the internet after having 2.5 6.0 beers?
You were managing. You know what? Last week, there was a point in last week's show. Let's not call it a show. We're not showing.
What are we on? What else were you doing?
When we were doing the 100-shot challenge, when I said to you, have you really been searching for that question on the internet after like 6 pints of something? And you said you'd been doing that in the background. I thought, I can barely speak. And you're doing like difficult maths and English stuff going on in the background. It was crazy.
That's the thing. I think it's part of the undiagnosed ADHD, but my multitasking basically allows me to get away with anything. So when we drank 100 shots, I couldn't focus on how uncomfortable chemically my body was because I was trying to do the math on which lager was the best bang for your. I was trying to mathematically figure out which lager was the best bang for your buck at the LC. No, which beer had the best bang for buck for alcohol percentage, while also arguing with Kier that the newer versions of movies should have less nostalgia in them in order to evolve the story and leave things behind. And we're having a good discussion
and
about
all
that.
I was trying to do toward the end of the show was not vomit.
And
that's the only thing I was concentrating on.
That's my point. I didn't have to focus on that because
Good idea.
I was arguing that Bill Murray and Ernie Hudson and Dan Aykroyd should have been nowhere near the second round of Ghostbuster movies.
It was an awful lot of Ghostbusters talk for about 35 minutes toward the end of that show.
Nothing surprised me more when I finally went to go see the third trilogy. So The Force Awakens, episode 7 of the Star Wars, the trilogy, and it was however many umpteen years since the original things and whatnot. And I got there and I'm watching these movies and I'm like, yeah, look, there's someone and they're doing a thing and they've got a droid. And then they drag out Harrison Ford's carcass and you've got someone in the Chewie costume and then R2-D2 shows up and there's, Princess Leia dragging her socks through a scene. And I kept thinking, what? Who?
Why?
What? I was and this comes right back to the fact that my tastes are not everybody's. I am fully in the minority. Nobody wants to put on chocolate chip cookie flavored porter in the summertime, but I want to drink it. Nobody wants a brand new Star Wars intellectual property except for me, where if someone is watching Star Wars and say, how come Luke Skywalker's not swinging his sword around? Why am I abrasively Scottish in this scenario? Why is an angry Scot
You sound a
about Star
bit
Wars?
like Billy Connolly.
Well, maybe that's part of that.
Which is a real compliment to you. But carry on. I'm with you.
Why does Luke... You don't have to cling to the past in order to continue telling the story. That was all I was trying to say. You can continue telling the story in new ways, in new characters. You can bring things forward. You can evolve stuff. There's a number of things that I really enjoy because the story evolves. It doesn't just drag itself, kick itself. There's so many examples, but I'm not going to bring them up because we don't need to argue about media properties because this is technically a beer, and I'm going to say it, show. Even though
we could talk forever. I could talk forever about. I'd never heard the term until last week, and Keir said it 1,000 times, and it's called OG. I could talk forever with you for hours over the OG of Star Wars versus the new Star Wars, but I'm not going to. I'll do that. Save that for another day. This is just no. Quick to say, I will say this though. The Force Awakens, mate, was amazing.
What are your numbers? What do you like?
CGI was so rubbish in between it. This is so good.
Yes, this is high low. This is high marks, probably low 9s for me.
The thing is, of course, I left.
They are different.
Of the other.
They are
and
different.
I was going to say, that's the problem now. They are so distinct. They're all IPAs, but it's comparing almost literally apples with oranges. Almost literally, it's there's they're all really good. But I'm going to go back. And I'm going to go back to the first one and take. This was Slabtown. Who was it who said you posted your little show there earlier on, and someone said Slab, really good.
We had a comment saying that Slabtown was a favorite. Dale McKenna. Slabtown is great. I hope it becomes a mainstay. It's probably better than the one that just says Propeller IPA. It's not as good as the Galaxy, but the Galaxy's a dipper.
It's fabulous. I've gone back to it now, and it's just a treat because it tastes more IPA-ish as a result, but not a knock your block off IPA. Nope. It's still smooth. It's still got it hasn't lost any of its flavour while it's sitting there at the bottom of the glass for the last hour. I
still feel like it's a little held back. It feels like a watered down. Personality-wise,
okay, I would say that it's to me it still, even at this point, tastes like one of the very best IPAs that I tried there 3 years ago. The IPA, it's in that league, the 9 Locks one, because that was the one I brought up that night. And I thought, you know what, this is really tasty, because it didn't have that acidity that I associated with all the IPAs. It was way smoother, far easier to drink, but still full of flavour without bending over backwards for the hot aficionados. Is the way I can say it. It's really good.
Does it brim with zesty citrus, pine, and a touch of fruit? Is it a West Coast IPA? I honestly think.
Don't know
that it hasn't done what it says it's doing. I think it's delicious, but where it says I'm a West Coast IPA brimming with zesty pine, that I I might still stick to my 7.5.
I did get, I do get a little bit of pine coming from it, but
Okay.
if it's a subtle thing, and I'm not going into drinking a beer saying, you know what, I want a zest of pine with my beer. I don't really care about that, but
Oh no, God, no.
I'm searching for it because they suggest it, and yes, I am getting a tiny bit of that, but it's a really good, solidly good IPA,
Yeah.
without hurting me, and
I,
it's 8 out of 10.
I-
And Propeller know what they're doing.
I would give it higher marks if it didn't say West Coast IPA and it didn't say zesty citrus and pine, because it's such a subtle. It's a really good introduction. Honestly, it's a really smooth way to get into IPAs. It's really quite tasty. I very much enjoy it, and I hate that I give it low marks, but I'm giving it low marks based on what it's describing itself as.
You didn't give it low marks. You gave it what, 7.5?
7.5. That feels to me like low marks, but okay, moving on.
Okay.
What the heck? Rare bird? There it is.
Ross, I am your teacher. You scored a paltry 75% today on your math. That's low marks.
It
How do you feel about that, Ross?
bloody well was in my family. Oh my God, if I came home with a 75 on a math mark, whew. Trouble.
Okay, maybe I chose the wrong subject.
Big trouble in Little China. And let me tell you, Little China was what I referred to as home when I came home with a bad mark.
What about this then? I am your gym teacher. You only scored 75% today on your soccer skills, Ross. Will you take that?
Do you want to know the only academic achievement I ever got? You know how they would pass out, best marks in this, who's got the top marks in biology, that this and that. I got one in middle school. Finally got one. My only award I ever received. Most improved in phys ed.
Yes.
Took it from like a 60 to an 80.
What? 60 to an 80?
Oh, yeah.
That means you participated. You got off the bleacher and you actually went out on the field. And you went from being
that might have been
likely to achieve eventually to he's on the field now, 80%.
That might have been the term that I got a full body grass stain from diving in the dirt during an attempt at playing rugby. But I was bad at phys ed. I was not good at that.
Most improved though. You should be proud of that. Do you still have that trophy or that certificate? Oh. Well, I'd have put that on the wall.
Citra, Surfer Scooter, the funny-looking
Caramel.
bird, the strange anorexic toucan.
Even better straight away after the Slabtown. The Slabtown's really good.
It says it's malty and it's malty, so I'm like, yes. However, citrus and peach notes up front.
You could argue against that, yeah.
It doubles down on the caramel flavors from the malted barley and wheat, yeah. The ride finishes clean and dry, yes. So this is getting more into the 8.7, 8.8 kind of category. Even for what it says.
You're really a big one for what it's saying on the can. And as it describes, are you tasting the description?
If you do exactly what you tell me you're doing on the can, 10 out of 10. That's what's going to happen.
Okay.
I find that they're all delicious. Each of these on their own, in their own individual ways, are like 9.5 out of 10. They're very, very good in different ways. But what's going on is the inconsistency between what the description is on the can.
I would drink the Rare Bird over the Slabtown. I think the Slabtown is a wonderful IPA. I would drink the Rare Bird because it's a maltier IPA and it's doing what the Maltona reality did for me in that. I love the fact that it's maltier and it's delicious. It's a 9 out of 10 for me. Rare Bird, Surfer Scooter.
Very
And it's
good.
got if it's got that little bit of tomato soup going on there, I feel sorry for you because but these are a year old, so maybe we need to buy a newer one.
It was at the top. I think it's less so at the bottom. We're getting all the maltiness without the rest of it. But so that one is it's hitting home. It's very, very good. Very, very good. That one. Dang ribbit. And then finally,
To my gooch.
put it in your gooch.
It's a fruity, explosive IPA.
This is what we like. This is what got us into IPAs. Was
Juicy, really hazy, juicy, but not crazy like the double IPAs are. Which I'm so looking forward to doing the what's it called? The hoppy, not the hoppy place, the one from Good Robot. What's the Good Robot one called? I forget what it's called.
The Tropico, some kind of thing.
Yeah, that thing. I'm with you because if you haven't tried it yet, have you tried it? No, good. I won't say any more than that. Spoiler alert: you're gonna love it.
Oh, yeah.
But this is like a weaker version of it to me, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's still so full of flavor and delicious. I gave that an 8, a 9. This is a 9.2.
I'm thinking the same thing. It's definitely getting up there. So loaded with hops. It's saturated with grapefruit, layers of peach, berry, and mango. It didn't quite get the peach, but the full body and I love how they say soft bitterness. That means bitterness, piss off. There's no bitterness whatsoever. It's just tasty. This is a double or triple IPA at a lower percentage. This is just it's a drinkable. And 6.0, I'm not saying it's sessionable, but you could have a pint and could you drive home after a 6.0 pint? One?
I would, but
nurse it over in an hour. Don't drink like us.
The thing is,
if you've learned anything from this show and this podcast, do not drink like us.
I'm a real beer fan, Ross, and I don't know if you noticed, but down the years. But the thing is, I still kind of say to myself occasionally, even though now I'm giving all these IPAs really high marks, I still think to myself, Ian, what's happened to you? You used to like beer. And I don't know if you know where I'm going with that, but it's the case of if someone had thrown this down at me sort of 3-4 years ago and said, this is now beer. And we're going out on a session, Ian, to have 5 or 6 pints of this. I'd have been like, what the fuck do I want? Grapefruit and pineapple and apples and oranges and berries and stuff. That's not beer. I want my beer to be a rich, bitter, dark, malty brew. That's what my beer is, and that's what my beer has been for years and years and years. Not to say I haven't drunken lagers down the years. Of course I have. But if someone was to say, this is your beer of choice, Ian, I would always go for a malty, dark, yes, a porter or a stout or an ESB, just the darker, maltier versions of beers, because that's what I've always been leaning towards. It's only very recently that I've started to finally come over to the other side. I feel a bit like, you made a Star Wars reference earlier on. I do feel a bit like I'm coming over to not the dark side. I was on the dark side. I'm coming over to the Force. And if that's what no,
it's the really ugly, weird plot line where the dark side, Adam Driver comes over to the ish of the good side of and no one quite understands why.
Well, I mean, even in an upside down universe, even the white stouts are good. Even the white stouts
Oh,
are
we've
good.
got
I was
one of
pulled up.
those.
No, but they are good. So I'm finally coming into the light side. The IPAs are winning me over. Fruity beers and bittery hoppy beers are citrusy beers are winning me over. Okay,
In the
so now,
winter time, it's freaking it's raining ice outside, and we're still.
yeah,
Do you know what I found is the strangest thing so far? A week ago, we had our Century Club thing, and we all tried some lagers and whatnot. Guess what we had 2 weeks ago? And I tried. I try to diversify and mix it up, and we'll try some lighter beers and some darker beers, and we'll have a brown and an amber in the middle. 2 weeks ago, just before our Century thing, it was IPAs. And either I couldn't remember that because last week's Century Club was a million years ago in my brain, but I said, hey, you know what? We've got these delicious IPAs. And you said, hell yes, let's do it. And we got back into the IPAs. And I'm fascinated that neither of us said, oh, ugh, didn't we just do IPAs? Wow. Neither of us remembered that we'd recently done a bunch of IPAs.
Really?
Yeah.
Gracious.
I think we're growing. This is a very
We are
therapeutic adventure that we're upon here.
I wouldn't say we're maturing, but we're growing.
Yeah,
we're
100%.
yeah, we're going back in the maturity stakes. I didn't know we'd done the IPAs so recently. Well, then, do we have to wait? Do we have to wait a while to do some more IPA? Because I'll be really upset.
No, because we've got. You remember that Good Robot double IPA that you mentioned? I'd like.
Yeah.
We're having that next week.
Oh, that's a shame. Double IPA night then is it next week? No.
We are talking to one Josh. If I can find his, hang on a second. Josh Council of Good Robot Brewing is going to be on here talking to us next week.
Next week, and we're going to be throwing that double IPA in. Oh, but I've already said, spoiler alert, you're going to fucking love it. It's quite astonishing.
Well, you'll love the next part. He also suggested your favorite Good Robot brew.
Oh, there's a lot of them. Which is my favorite this week?
The Diablo jalapeno one again.
Okay. You said that with your tongue in your cheek.
I did not. I thought you liked that one. I thought you were coming around.
I do like it. I do like it.
I always love that one. I'm big on that.
It's not my favorite by a long chalk. But
when you talk to the brewery, you have fewer choices.
Yes, of course. Okay. I tell you what, I would have told you all about how great Oak Cake Computer was, but unfortunately there was no sound on that. And on that note, I'm out of here.
We got to find that one again. Oh, we'll have to tell Josh the story. So do join us next week. We're talking to Josh Council of Good Robot Brewing and a few beers at the same time. Wednesdays, 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. and beyond, obviously, is what we do. And you can find us on YouTube, youtube.com/@drinknsdry. You can find our podcast in all the podcasty places, and that's about it. If you want to go straight to the source, you can go to drinkns.unsupervised.beer. And thank you for joining us. Thank you to Ian for joining me tonight. Thank you to Rare Bird, Tatamagouche Brewing, and Propeller Brewing for the beers that they made us for tonight. And we hopefully will see you next week when we do talk to Josh Council of